What's poppin', y'all? The industry plan conversation has resurfaced on X, one of my favorite platforms. I'm not being ironic when I say that. I really enjoy X because you get to see discussions happen on it. It's not really much of a thing. There isn't as much engagement farm. Well, the replies, they're trying to clean those up a little bit, but those suck a lot with the AI generated replies. But you can kind of just filter out and see, well, mentally filter out and see which ones are and which ones are not AI replies. But in this tweet that resurfaced from an interview that Russ did with a Flagrant podcast, it says Russ clarifies the term, quote, industry plan. The prerequisite years ago used to be you had to be an industry plant. We only know you because the industry planted you here. That used to be the only way you could be known. The first time I heard J. Cole was in '09 on Jay-Z album. Russ goes on to share how the internet, social media changed that and believes fans are missing out on so much inspiration by discrediting someone's organic growth. So I'm going to play you guys that audio, that clip real quick.
Can you talk about industry plants a little bit? Like, I hear that term a lot.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
I don't even know what it means.
You know what that means to people? And it's so funny because the prerequisite years ago used to be you had to be an industry plant. And what industry plant means is basically like, we only know you because the industry planted you here. Well, that used to be the only way you could be known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Think about it, right? It's like the first time I heard J. Cole was '09 on Blueprint 3 on A Star Is Born.
Right.
I remember I bought Blueprint 3 and Cuddy's debut on the same day, September 9th, I think, '09, right? September 13th, something like that. That was the first time I heard J. Cole. Then I heard the warm-up, and it was a rap, and I was a fan.
Mm-hmm.
He was an industry plant by industry plant standards because first time I hear he's on a Jay-Z album, that's a crazy
I
introduction.
think he was already signed to Jay.
But it's like that used to be
I grew up in Queens, and he went to St. John's, I believe, and he was like, I saw him handing out.
Right, so you were like early in that way, but it's like
before he was done.
It's like you used to only be able to find out about artists if the industry pushed them.
Yeah.
And then the internet opened up, and a lot of this like organic rise and guerrilla movements happened to the point where it was very clear, like if you blew up via internet and guerrilla style, or if the industry put you there. And so it started this conversation of, nah, you're not as real as them, and you know. And for me, it's like it used to with me a lot, to be honest. People call me an industry plant because
Discredits all the work you did.
Yeah.
bro, because I am the furthest thing from it. And if like, and I get mad because I'm like, one, discredits the work, but two, I'm like, damn, bro, like, y'all are missing out on so much inspiration. Do you understand that, like, if you actually realize the truth, that you would realize you can do it too?
Yeah.
They
You
don't
know what I'm
want that.
saying? It's like, bro.
They want the justification
It's like-
for why they didn't do it.
Yeah.
They don't want to know
Of
how to do it.
course.
They'd rather not do the work and have an excuse.
Yeah.
And it, yeah,
It's
bro.
part of the Nepo baby thing.
He's on because he cheated, not
Right.
because you're nice.
Right.
And you worked your ass
And you
off.
figured out the system and you did that.
Well, your
Yeah,
parents had money, so it doesn't count what you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And it, bro, used to bother the fuck out of me.
So a bunch of people were going back and forth about this, saying like, oh, the first time you heard Cole was on Jay-Z's track, no warm-up, no come-up, get this guy out of here. And you've got some people agreeing with him. Now, granted, the point that Russ was making is a visibility point. And he replies underneath that tweet and says, damn, people's comprehension skills in this thread are effing zero. Dummies don't even know they're agreeing with me. And then he quote tweets it and elaborates even further. He says, my point was that people think if they didn't hear about an artist until their breakout, that means the artist was planted. This is a very good point that we'll come back to. That logic is dumb. Breakouts are literally the moment when visibility spikes. That's when most people hear about any artist. By that standard, almost everyone, even J. Cole, would be an industry plant, and that should tell you how dumb that terminology is. Hence why I used him as an example. Nowadays, anyone you discover late gets called an industry plant. LOL. And by you, he means the individual, because people live in these tiny bubbles now, and they think that they're getting access to what's actually going on. Like when people say like, man, I've never heard somebody listen to a song by this person. I've never heard somebody. Number one, that person has like 3 friends and they all hang out on Discord, none of which are even in the same state as them. So that's one thing. And number two, it's like, for example, like country music. Like I've probably heard country music in person playing somewhere 2-3 times, and that's within the past 4 years. Does that mean nobody was listening to it pre-2020, 2021, let's say 2022? No. people were listening to it, and I was aware that people were listening to it. It's just that I wasn't listening to it, and I was not in areas where it was listened to. Like, I wasn't in Oklahoma, I wasn't in a Nashville, Tennessee, I wasn't in a Kentucky, so it would make sense that I didn't hear it. And he says, okay, back to hibernating in the studio, maturing is realizing I'm always right. That's a little bit funny. So with Russ's explanation, what he is saying is that if you call these people a plant, then everybody's a plant. But he also had called out industry plants when he first came into the game. And this is the raw definition that I have to keep bringing up time and time again, and why Doechii is an industry plant. And so was Baby Keem. An industry plant is an artist that is presented as organic, independent, coming up, but the entire time is signed by a record label or funded by a record label and doesn't get officially signed until later. Now, this frustrated Russ a lot when he blew up because he was independent the entire time. And even when he got into a deal, it was a joint partnership. It was a JV with Columbia Records. So it's a similar deal that 21 Savage had. However, 21 Savage had production from Zaytoven and Metro Boomin when he was a nobody, which is not something that Russ had. Russ produced his first album on Columbia too, self-produced. So with the situation with Russ, he was probably frustrated because he's like, yo, people are calling me a plant. And this is where people thought that, oh, this is the first time I'm hearing about this person, he has to be planted, because they would even make up fake theories. Like, oh, nah, Russ's dad is actually an executive at a record label and that's why he's popping, because people don't want to admit people like this guy's music, whoever it may be, her, he, etc., and they're listening to it and it just doesn't resonate with you, and it has not resonated with you, and that's fine, or it hasn't hit your radar. And a lot of people that are became into like SoundCloud and stuff like that, we started to love organic artists, and that's why record labels started to plant people. Now, to get to the point about Doechii and Baby Keem, they tried to sell us this lie with, and I remember it was for the Black Panther soundtrack, Baby Keem was a producer whose beats were on there, and they did an interview with him on Complex, and they were like, yo, how'd you end up on the TDE, or how'd you end up on this project? And he was like, yeah, I just sent over some beats to TDE amongst the tens of thousands of other people to their email, and they just chose me. And people actually bought that nonsense of a lie. We would later find out. And he wasn't signed initially. He was with the Orchard, which was like a Sony distribution company. So you're kind of like still independent. And a lot of people can get access to that. But his manager was like a really, really high up guy. So people were like, yo, this guy's... and then you find out he's Kendrick's cousin, and then he signs to Columbia, and you're like, okay, I see this was set up years in advance. Okay, we're going to run this play for the next year and a half, 2 years, and then if it works, then we'll reveal everything later on. Similar thing with Doechii, which I don't recall the exact timeline, but she was doing her thing. She was kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily popular, but she had like a little tiny base, and then TDE comes in, somebody from TDE likes her, and they're like, okay, we're going to grow this artist. You could say artist development, but artist development is not much of a thing. They kind of have to hide it for a while because it leaves such a sour taste in the mouth of the market, which is after SoundCloud and live mixtapes and the internet, the industry plant was a reaction by the record labels to the demand for authenticity by the consumers, which is us. So they're like, okay, these people want, and this is why marketers suck. And I say this as somebody that's like kind of like, I love marketing, but marketers just ruin everything, because what you do is you look at something that happens organically and generates a ton of attention. And what you do is you're like, okay, how can I manufacture this? And then you manufacture it enough and it dies out and people start to recognize it. Like, for example, let's just say interviews, like public street interviews, right? Public street interviews, maybe a product blows up, maybe a character blows up, etc. What happens? Oh, hold on. We have a brand, we have a product. Let's manufacture our own public street interviews using our product or our tequila or whatever. I think some Miami brand did this. And then they do that. And then other brands see that, oh, wow, they did that with great success. Let's copy them. And then you start watching. You're like, wait, hold on. Oh, okay, I see what's going on here. And then it fades. And then something new has to come. So that's the thing with industry plants. Before, there was also you had to demonstrate some sort of a talent to be able to get access to recording equipment and all of these things. Like once those became low cost, a lot of independent artists started to spring up from everywhere. And I remember the biggest deal of an industry plant was when you wore the industry plant shirt in the 2015 XXL freshman list, and that was Rory, because nobody understood Rory. I didn't understand Rory, and I was quite early on Rory. It was when Indigo Child had dropped. That was actually the Cigarette Song was the first mixtape that, or the first music video that Ruby Rose appeared in, by the way. That's just a fun fact. Even in God's Whisper, like it was great music. It was like a mix of folk and rap and like Atlanta, but he was managed by LVRN, and you're looking at it like this guy came out of nowhere. He had his own festival. What's that? Andre 3000 shows up to the festival. He's getting Jaden Smith is messing with him. He's getting cosigns from everywhere. And this is 2015. And you're like, where? Why? How? And his numbers didn't add up to that level. Like God's Whisper had 1 million, which was 1 million views is solid, but that's not an artist that feels like they should be forced on you everywhere. And LVRN ended up being the same company that would manage Summer Walker, but they clearly put a bunch of money into the guy. We don't know when they found him, when they discovered him, but it was such a quick ascension that seemingly came out of nowhere. That doesn't mean he started making music out of nowhere, but people aren't going to buy it. And that's when it's not done that properly. And Dochi's an example of that, where it's like it happens so fast, people can't really like grasp onto the storyline. With the Baby Keem, we saw the storyline. It was long enough to where we're like, okay, we accept this. That's understandable. So that's why artist development is not really much of a thing, because people don't want it. People want an XXX Tentacion with the blue snowball microphone that he recorded his early music with Ski, and then that blows up, or just even like TikTok artists, for example, that blow up, or a sound, and then they're like, okay, cool, we mess with this, we're getting behind something real. They don't want to feel like a corporation is pushing something down their throat. Now with a J. Cole, for instance, that would be considered an industry plant, because people are not throwing the label industry plant on the definition that I gave you, which is a Dochi or a Baby Keem or a Rory, for instance. They're throwing it on people like just anybody that blows up that they don't listen to. That's it. They're like, oh, that's a plant because I haven't heard them. And you're like, what? What do you mean that's a plant? This person's been here for years. They've even got a storyline. You can go back and see every project that they've released for the past 5 to 6 years. Nah, that's a plant. So I think that's what Russ is addressing. I really do like how he's still so involved in this, considering how much bread that this guy's made off music. The fact that he's still so engaged on his social platforms whilst making music and releasing consistently just goes to show like this guy really loves this game like no other, because most rappers you see that make even a fraction of the bread that he does, they're not arguing about this stuff. They're not talking about this stuff. They're just like, yo, I made it. I'm chilling. People can think whatever they want and I'm going to keep it pushing. But he is independent. So it just goes to show that he has to work hard, and he's showing how hard he works to, even at this level of success, be able to, promote his music and stay relevant. But let me know what you guys think about it. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed, and I'm going to see you on the next one.